Hey, what's going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and welcome to my critical retrospective or review of Call of Duty Black Ops, the first Black Ops game within the franchise. We are, of course, going to be going through campaign, multiplayer, and zombies, all with different point values. Campaign is going to have 20 points, multiplayer 40, and zombies 40, so we'll give each of those modes a ranking out of those specific point values, and then we'll add them all up at the end, and we'll get an actual final score for Call of Duty Black Ops 1 or Call of Duty Black Ops, whatever you feel like calling it. Call of Duty Black Ops came out in 2010, so it's almost 10 years old now, which is pretty crazy, and it still holds up as one of the best COD games in the entire franchise, and in my opinion, definitely within the top 3 or 4 of all time. And I'm talking as a full game, not as a separate, by each mode. If we're talking about the whole game in total, it's one of those special ones. It's definitely got some pretty good community feedback for the most part. I see most people really enjoying Black Ops. It's usually one of their favorites, just like Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 2. It's usually up there for one of the favorites, and I'm no different. As you can see by the title, I do believe that Call of Duty Black Ops is amazing. So here is why. We're going to get into it, starting with campaign. So just like the past 2 games that I've reviewed, this campaign is nothing short of incredible. I mean, that's something you're going to notice with the older CODs. Their campaigns are all pretty good. There's nothing really that wrong with any of them, to be honest. There's a few nitpicks here and there, but for the most part, from COD 4 all the way to about maybe like Black Ops 2, all the campaigns are really damn good. Like, there's not many problems I have with them. Now, multiplayer and the third mode, that's a little different. There's been many complaints I have with some of the older CODs in terms of that field. It almost feels like COD's gotten worse in the campaign field, but in my opinion, better in the multiplayer field. Not 100%. There's things here and there that have gotten worse in each, things in here that have gotten better in each. Obviously, that's to be expected. But Black Ops 1's campaign is just such a fantastic piece. I don't think it's better than the Modern Warfare series by any means, but it's still really good in its own, mainly for how unique it was and how different it was. Now, first of all, it's the only Cold War era COD we have, so, that's definitely a plus. The sci-fi feel it brings is definitely very different and unique compared to the Modern Warfare series, even compared to World at War. The characters are incredible, like Woods, Mason, Hudson. Love all that. The Vietnam War being involved in this game is awesome. I mean, obviously it's part of the Cold War, so you'd expect to see it, and we did, of course. The villains are outstanding, and they're terrifying. And you have, of course, Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner, who all must die, obviously, according to Reznov, which, another thing, seeing Reznov in this game was awesome. And the twist that he wasn't even there, he died in Vorkuta, was one of the most holy shit moments in video game history. Now, first time playing it, you didn't realize all the hints, but when you play it again, it's like, holy shit. You realize, no one's talking to Reznov. The only person that ever had an actual dialogue conversation with him was Mason. You see some scenes here and there where people are looking at Mason like he's crazy because he's talking to Reznov, which in reality was in his head. That was awesome. The reveal of the interrogator being Hudson was unpredictable, in my opinion. I didn't predict it. I didn't see many people predict it. So there's a lot of twists and turns that make sense in this game, and they're not just out of nowhere just for shock value. You know what I mean? That's what I love about it, is there's no shock value. All these surprises are things that they built upon, things that if you play it again, you realize that, oh, they were foreshadowing it before it even happened. So I like that a lot. I do say one of the only complaints I may have with the campaign is the graphics do seem downgraded compared to the beautiful graphics of Modern Warfare 2, and there's not as many good soundtracks. Like, I can't think of many pieces of music within this campaign that are, like, stand out. Like, there's a few here and there that play within the multiplayer as well, but I can't think of any pieces that are, like, unique to, campaign, just like Modern Warfare 2 has a ton of unique campaign pieces that are outstanding. There's not many for Black Ops, which it's alright, because it's still a really, really enjoyable campaign nonetheless. I had a great time replaying it. I didn't think I would, honestly. I thought, it would be like, yeah, okay. But I loved it. Loved every second of it. So you have some really standout missions, too. Some really standout scenes. Some of my favorites include WMD, which is the one with the avalanche, which was so cool. Payback, which of course was the mission that started off with Russian roulette, which one of the coolest scenes in the entirety of the Call of Duty franchise.
What's the plan? I'm thinking.
No, Doc!
One chance, Mason. We'll take it. Okay.
Bang! You can't kill me! You shoot, GI, you shoot! Fuck!
This time, do it.
In line!
Ready.
Play. Bang!
6 and 8 o'clock.
I mean, come on, how goddamn awesome is that? So cool. And then, of course, you have the mission called Project Nova, which brings you back to the World War II era, and you get to play as Reznov with Dmitri by your side. You finally get to see what Dmitri from World at War looks like, which was a great callback to World at War. Really loved that about the Treyarch campaigns, that they always had flashback missions to the previous game. Of course, Black Ops 2 did it as well. Would have been nice if Black Ops 3 did it, but, you know, they really... Like, I mean, they kind of did, not really, you know, you get the idea. But I really liked how they did those flashback missions, and it really added some depth to the campaign, and it obviously added story. A lot of the interesting things that came from this game were stuff with the Project Nova mission, of course, Nova 6, which was such an interesting storyline, and it just made for a really well-rounded campaign. So I gotta give this a campaign a final score of 18 out of 20. Which is pretty damn good of a score. Not as good as I gave for Modern Warfare 2, but definitely this game deserves a high score for its campaign because it is nothing short of incredible, just like the majority of this game. So you're going to see some more good things about the rest of this game for sure. Don't worry. But of course, next up is the multiplayer, so yeah, let's get into that. The multiplayer of Call of Duty Black Ops is so much better than the past 3 games. So much better. I mean, from the maps to the gameplay to the balance, it's just so much more enjoyable for me personally, and that's why I rate it so much higher than the other games. Does it make it perfect? No. There are some problems, of course, with this game, just like any other game, that I need to address in this video. But let's get into the good things first, because there's definitely a lot more good things to mention. This game has some incredible maps. You have Firing Range, Summit, Jungle, Stadium, WMD. So many classic, awesome maps come from this game. And some of the DLC ones, like Hotel, Zoo, are really just unique and cool locations for maps, and they end up playing pretty well too. That's one of the best things about this game. The assault rifles in this game are awesome. Some of the best and most fun assault rifles in the entirety of Call of Duty history. You got the Galil, the Commando, the AK-47, the AUG. So many good guns. And then you have, of course, some SMGs like the AK-74U. You got the MPL, the MP5K. So many awesome and fun guns to use within this game. I mean, some of the classics that people always want to return tend to come from this game. Oh, I forgot the FAMAS. Who can forget the FAMAS in this game? It is an insane weapon. Wager matches, tons of fun. This is the first time COD really played around with party games, and they made Call of Duty so much more enjoyable, because if you don't want to play in a serious competitive way, you can go ahead and play a party game, and you could wager your COD points, which was of course the currency in this game, which was also a huge plus. The currency system was pretty cool and made for some unique creative class options, you know, and progression systems different than any other previous COD before it. Face paints were, you know, not that big of a deal, but it was nice to have some customization, considering previous CODs didn't have character customization. Camos in this game are pretty cool too. There's a ton you can get, but I mean, it's not as cool as previous games, because I do like getting headshots to earn them, opposed from just buying them with your in-game currency. It's more special earning them with, you know, your headshots. That's why that's a negative, but the camos themselves look really cool, especially the Bengal camo. Freaking love that one. And the gold camo is easily one of the best gold camos in the entirety of Call of Duty ever. So that's a huge plus, obviously. Kill streaks are fantastic in this game, and they're really fun. You got the dogs, the chopper gunner, the VSAT, just some really awesome streaks, and it's a ton of fun to try to go for them and get them. It is a bummer that they're kill streaks, though, because it does promote camping, which you do see a lot of camping in this game, just like MW2, which is unfortunate, but in the end, it all plays out just fine. The game has really bad hit detection. This is obviously an issue, and just overall connection itself. It's a really laggy, choppy game, just like World at War, and I don't know why Treyarch's CODs tend to be like that sometimes. Their newer ones are better. I think Black Ops 2 kind of fixed most of those problems, same as Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4. Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 are pretty smooth for the most part, but Black Ops 1 was really choppy, man. It was just, even going back to it now, it's just not... It's not in good condition. You can shoot somebody and like 2 seconds later it'll register that it killed them sometimes, and that just gets really frustrating because you're just trying to get some kills. You're trying to, do good in the game, and then you get killed because of bad connection. It's just not fun. But it is what it is, It's just one of the small problems with this game, of course. Also, another great thing this game added was contracts. Contracts just make so much more fun for the multiplayer game, because you can actually grind for things, work towards things. You also have the addition of reticles, custom reticles that you can customize and change around. They just made all that a lot more fun. You also have the emblem editor, first game with theater mode. That all just together, it makes for this game to be so much better than most people give it credit for. So yeah, let's get into this final ranking. The balance overall is pretty good in this game, but the gun balance isn't all that good. I think this game has a huge problem with the assault rifles being way more powerful than the SMGs or really any of the other guns. I mean, the snipers are completely worthless in this game. LMGs, you can use them, but they're just make you way too slow. Shotguns are not that good. Pistols are pistols. You can't really get much out of that. But the assault rifles are definitely dominant, and that kind of causes for some balance problems in terms of the guns. But in terms of perk balance, streak balance, credit class system overall is pretty good. I think the perks are really well balanced because I'm always using something different. Equipment, I'm always using something different, so that's good. Even attachments, I feel like, there's a few attachments that are stand out, like extended mags, suppressor. I use suppressor a lot in this game. I mean, the suppressor is like, I don't know, I love the sound of it, and I just like staying off the radar in this game. It's more of a stealth game for me personally, so that definitely, I guess, adds on to that sort of a feel for the game. This was just the first COD to really make the multiplayer almost prioritize more than the campaign. Like, it almost seemed like they put way more work into this multiplayer than previous games, because previous games, they used to just take, locations from the campaign and use those as multiplayer maps. But in this game, they really went out of their way to use things that aren't in the campaign within their multiplayer. Like, a lot of the maps are not even in campaign. They're not anything, even associated with the campaign. They're just completely unique maps. Some of the guns, too. Some of the guns didn't even show up within the campaign. They're completely unique to the multiplayer, which is really cool because that shows that they actually are trying to do innovative things with multiplayer rather than making it feel like a side mode. This is when it started feeling like a primary portion of the game. That's one of the biggest reasons I love this game, because campaign being great is good and all, I love that, but they weren't sacrificing the multiplayer's quality by, working more on the campaign. They kind of equally distributed it. And then, of course, you have a whole third mode, which we'll get into later, which was really awesome as well. So all around, Black Ops just encompasses so many great things for a Call of Duty game, and I'm really excited for this new Black Ops game, which should be coming out in 2020. Because based on leaks and rumors, it seems like it might be another Cold War game, which hopefully it'll feel reminiscent to Call of Duty Black Ops from 2010. So multiplayer, I'm going to give a final score of 34 out of 40. That's a pretty damn good score overall. That's a lot higher than any of the other games so far that I've done this retrospective reviews for in terms of the multiplayer. So, yeah, that's great. Now we're moving on to the next portion of the game, which is one of the craziest and most exciting portions for me personally. That is zombies. Of course, next up we have the wonderful zombies mode. I am so excited to talk about zombies because honestly, zombies is one of the main points that got me into Call of Duty. I mean, I played it before zombies was even a thing back during Call of Duty 3, but I was never as invested into it as I was when World at War Zombies came around, and I just really wanted to play more zombies maps. Now, of course, I still played campaign and multiplayer, and honestly, today I'd consider myself equally as a fan of multiplayer as I am zombies. I'm usually equally excited for the game zombies and multiplayer. Campaign is usually a little lower though, of course, but zombies still just, this is I think where it really blew up in terms of popularity and enjoyment, was in Call of Duty Black Ops. And even looking back on it, although it's not my favorite zombies experience, it's definitely not, it's definitely my most nostalgic and what I think is the most innovative zombies mode out of all of them, which definitely gives this a lot of credit. And I can't not give this game credit for having such a wonderful impact on the Call of Duty Zombies community. I mean, Kino der Toten is usually that map that people say is their first ever map. Mine, of course, was Nocturne Toten, but most people, when you ask them, they say Kino was their first map, because this is when zombies really became something bigger. You had maps like Ascension, which was the first actual Easter egg quest that you could complete. You had all sorts of branching storylines being introduced. You had all sorts of wonder weapons, training methods, all sorts of new ways of trying to play, new competitive people who were trying to get to high rounds and do all this crazy stuff. It really blew up because of this game, and that's why I gave it so much praise for that. The story was at its all-time high, I think, in this game. I really was very invested in the Black Ops 1 storyline. Maybe, I don't know, Black Ops 3 was pretty cool too, but Black Ops 1 storyline, I think, is where it was at its best. I mean, most big story people agree with me on that one. And throughout the maps, I felt like there's 3 really good ones, and then 3 good ones and 3 not so good ones. I don't think any of them are really bad by any means. But I'd say Kino, Ascension, and Call of the Dead are good. Shang, Moon, and 5 are not that good. That's just my opinion. Obviously, other people might feel different. And then Dead Ops Arcade was a nice change of pace. And then, of course, you had the 4 remakes from World at War, which was awesome to see them. So you had a lot of options to play in the menu screen, which was really, really cool. If I was to say one of them is my favorite, I would obviously say Call of the Dead. Call of the Dead is a near masterpiece, in my opinion. Yeah, if I were to do a quick little ranking just for you guys, I might just do this for every single one, obviously. Call of the Dead's the best, Ascension second, Kino third, 4th is Shang, 5th is Moon, and 6th is 5. I'm not really a big fan of 5, not that much at least. But the rest of the game, then of course we have Dead Ops, which is enjoyable for a short period of time. I think Dead Ops Arcade 2 was a much needed improvement upon the Dead Ops formula. And of course the 4 remakes, they're good, but some of the original versions of them are more enjoyable in my opinion, because there's nothing really new about them. You just get Mule Kick and you get some Black Ops 1 guns, which preferably I'd rather have the World at War guns, of course. You do have a few classic guns returning within the maps, like the MP40, which was really fun to mess around with. Yeah, that's really about it. They didn't really return that many classic guns to the game, but you had a lot of fun things to mess around with, and that to me is why I love Black Ops 1 so much. I think the zombies mode was definitely important for the rest of the series. I don't think it was the best by any means. If you see my ranking of all these zombies modes, you'll know out of all 8 of them, there's about 8 modes right now, I think it's like 5th place or something like that. So, you know, it's got some room to work with, but I think what makes it not as good is how some of the Easter eggs are not as in-depth as some of the newer ones, of course, and, you know, they're much shorter, not many steps to them. Some of them you can't even do by yourself. You need 4 players, so that definitely takes away from the enjoyment of them, and the rewards for them aren't that great. Call of the Dead, though, that Wonder Waff, love that reward. Love it so much that it makes Call of the Dead a fantastic map just because of that one reason alone. So in giving Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies a ranking, I'm gonna have to give it a 32 out of 40, which is a pretty damn good score. It's not that great of a score, of course. It could be a lot higher. A lot of the other modes are a lot higher, but it's still a lot better than some of the other modes. Still a lot better than Exo Zombies, of course. And I can definitely go back to it and play it often, but there is a certain point where the maps start to get kind of stale because there's not that much depth into them. You know, you have the Easter eggs, of course, you have some cool things to do. You can just run around and train and have a good time, which can be fun sometimes. Especially the nostalgia going back to them is fun too. But I really only find myself ever wanting to actually play Call of the Dead. Like, that's the only map I ever really want to play in this game. I never have an urge to play any other maps. That's kind of the same for World of War. It's like the only map in World of War that I ever have the urge to play is Deriz. And so when you only have really one map that you ever feel like you want to play, that's kind of a negative in many different ways. So unfortunately, you know, it loses points for that, of course, and it loses points for everything else I just stated. But yeah, still 32 out of 40 is still pretty damn good. So yeah, that is Zombies, and let's get into the final verdict of Call of Duty Black Ops. So with the final verdict of Call of Duty Black Ops, the score is going to come out to an 84 out of 100, which is of course 84%. So that is much better in comparison to the previous couple of games. The other games have been, you know, either 60s or 70s, and finally we're getting into the CODs that are within the 80s. 84% is pretty damn high. That's definitely within the top 5 best CODs of all time. Of course, I'm at the end of this whole thing, I'm probably going to give you guys a full ranking video where I rank all of them together using the rankings that I did in each of these retrospective reviews, which is going to be a lot of fun. I think this game has a lot of positives. There's a few negatives, of course, including, you know, the hit detection within the multiplayer, the balance within the guns, the campaign, its graphics, and just the game's graphics overall being a little poor. The zombies not being as, you know, immersive and amazing as newer games, but of course it's starting it all, so you got to give it some credit there. But the games themselves just is incredible. The game itself as a whole, this is one of the CODs I love to go back to play really anything within the game, mainly because of how enjoyable it is. So yeah, Black Ops gets an 84% on the ranking. Now, hopefully you guys are looking forward to the rest of these retrospective reviews. Up next is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I got a lot to say about that, so that's going to be a fun one. And hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.